how did video games play a role in growing up and coming to grips with being different?
I mean, like most friendless children, I found so much in video games. And it initially was a way that because my brother's 2 years younger than me, and we were always best friends, and we're still super close to this day. Video games were something that we did together all the time. And we started out by doing video games that both of us would like Resident Evil and just like Tony Hawk Pro Skater and zombie games like that, and stuff that we could both play together, Mario Kart and all that stuff. And then I will never forget finding, I think it was Harvest Moon that came first. And I found, at the time, it was Harvest Moon. And I was like, what's the catch? Did they attack at some point? Because I'm reading, like, you just have a farm and you live your life. And I'm like, and then the zombies attack.
Hello, friends, and welcome to Gamers Gab, the podcast by gamers for gamers. I'm Artsy from the Artsy Gamer. I make art, I play games, and I encourage others to do the same. Joining me, oh my gosh, friends, joining me for this episode is the queen of Animal Crossing drama, the info dumper of all things Pokemon, the amazing wildlife conservationist, herpetologist, creative, YouTuber, Amanda from the Amanda Files. So Amanda, I know I kind of did an introduction for you already, but if you would, do a brief introduction of your sweet self and your pronouns, and then we'll get started.
Thank you for... You really hyped me up a lot. Wow. Thank you. I'm Amanda, and my pronouns are she, her, and yeah, you said it. I am a YouTuber, I guess, still getting used to that. And I just have a lot of things that I feel passionately about, as you could probably see behind me. So I like to play video games, and I love animals. I worked with animals a lot in my professional life. And so I share a lot of animal facts, unsolicited animal facts, if you will, and stories from the weird things I've found myself doing. And yeah, that's my vibe, I guess.
So as I said, friends, and as Amanda so wonderfully stated, I was introduced to Amanda through, I think it was in 2021, where you started really telling this incredible story about your Animal Crossing New Horizons island that was filled to the brim with drama, starting in TikTok and transferring over to YouTube. And with all of your amazing interests, they somehow have like come together in this incredible, I don't know, this melting pot of what makes the Amanda Files the Amanda Files. And one of the things that I love about Amanda is that she is so open and honest about talking about not only her passions, but her struggles and acceptance with being a neurodivergent person. So before we get started with celebrating neurodivergence and curating a community that celebrates being different and you know, managing the struggles, but also celebrating what makes you unique, what does neurodivergence mean to you individually as a person?
I think, oh gosh, where do I start? One thing I think it means to a lot of people is kind of like making sense of everything up until the point where you realize that you're not just bad at things, and you're not just like not acclimating to humanity. Like you go so many years thinking, like I remember just in like elementary school, middle school, into high school, just thinking like, why can't I do this? Like, why is it easy for you? Are you guys all faking? What is the cat? Like, what am I doing wrong? Just little things that, you know, seem to come so easy to other people, or just the notion that like every single like social interaction that you have is like this huge like act that you have to like curate perfectly, and you have to really like overthink it. And then you get close to people and they're like, why are you freaking out? You're like overthinking this. And I'm like, are you not? Is this easy for you? Is everything just easy for you? And just kind of coming to the realization that it's not a failure on your part. It's a failure on, you know, society's part for not making things, you know, be a little bit more accommodating to neurodivergence, and kind of setting the standard, at least in the United States, in school, like setting this standard that's like fits one type of person that you're judged on. And if you're not getting it that way, or if you're not excelling in that like learning style or whatever, then you know, at least when I grew up, the teachers would be like, you are not applying yourself. Like, I know you're smarter than this. And I'm like, I'm trying my best. Like, and I remember so many instances of me having to admit, like, actually, this is me trying my hardest. And I know that's embarrassing to admit, but it's the truth. And they're like, what? No, it can't be. And I'm like, this is so bad. And so, I think just like the big conversation about neurodivergence and just the like concept of it, and knowing that there's a divergence to the way that our brains all work is amazingly liberating. And it's something that can cause you to look back on your whole entire life and kind of forgive yourself for all the times that you thought you were failing or not being good enough or not knowing how to do something. And it's really just something that you couldn't help, you know? So I don't know.
Yeah, I was frequently told in school that I was an outlier and that they just didn't have time for me. So I fully understand this whole notion of like, how is this easy for everybody else, and feeling like I know that autistics often talk about feeling like an alien, which is a completely different neurodivergence than, you know, ADHD or ADD. But I do feel that we have somehow created a society of conformity. And when you have one sort of struggle, or that you look at something and you can instantly just hyperfixate it and tell a story, it's like all of a sudden everyone else is so uncomfortable with having to deal with you. So it sounds to me that what you were struggling with as a child was like that's a struggle then, that, you know, neurodivergence was a frequent thing that came up, and like at least, you know, school authority figures were saying, why is this so hard for you? Is that correct?
Oh yeah. And the whole alien thing is such a good analogy for anything. Like, you know, whenever you're dealing with something that makes it so that you're not like the rest of society, or you don't like, not to be like, I'm not like the rest of society, like the Joker or whatever, but like, you know, just the concept of kind of feeling like you can't possibly be I don't know. It's like the way that I think about it, because when you said that, I remember just being a kid and thinking about how I connected so quickly and so strongly to animals and spending time with animals. It's because like I would always tell myself and felt this notion of like, they're aliens from my home planet and we found each other. Cause like I don't know, I just never felt that weird.
That's amazing. That's so cute though.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. Especially like reptiles and stuff. Like I just always felt like it was easier to spend time with them, but I still got a social type of aspect from it. And like I could more easily understand them than other people, I guess. So it was like, oh, this must be closer to what I am, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, it's definitely all that. Like, and I have ADHD and I'm dyslexic. And so those are two things that I feel like they affect your school so much and your learning styles and like everything about that. And yet like public schools, at least when I went to school, just aren't even close to being equipped to identify it or handle it, even though it's so common and it's such a common explanation for why you're having like behavioral issues or just issues in school in general. Cause I never really had behavioral issues. I was always like too scared to be a jerk in class, but I definitely had so many issues with like, and I tried to be like that great student that was participating and being nice to the teachers and everything and listening. And then my schoolwork was just not reflecting that. And so the teachers would be like, well, you're a bad kid because you're not doing what we want you to do. And I'm like, I'm trying. So, yeah.
How did video games play a role in growing up and coming to grips with being different?
I mean, like most friendless children, I found so much in video games. And it initially was a way that because my brother's 2 years younger than me, and we were always best friends and we're still super close to this day. And it was a way that we would connect because we have so many, like we're the polar opposites. He's like a sports guy. I hate sports. And he's just like, doesn't really like animals. Like he tolerates them. He doesn't not like them, but he just like once he moved out, he's like, I'm never going to have a pet. And I'm like, what? That's so weird. Why? He's like, I just don't want one. I'm like, why? Just stuff like that. And like, so we're just very different people, but video games were something that we did together all the time. And we started out by doing video games that both of us would like Resident Evil and just like Tony Hawk Pro Skater and zombie games like that and stuff that we could both play together, Mario Kart and all that stuff. And then I will never forget finding, I don't know if, I think it was Harvest Moon that came first. And I found at the time it was Harvest Moon. And I was like, what's the catch? Did they attack at some point? Because I'm reading like you just have a farm and you live your life. And I'm like, and then the zombies attack? Like what then?
Fire
Is this
Nation
just
attacks,
a farm game? Right, exactly. And that was like mind blowing to know that I could just play a game where I am a person who has a farm and I have all these friends and I have this whole life and I know how to live it. And my brother was not interested in anything like that. He's like, you're playing a farming sim? Are you that lame that you need to play a game that's a farm? And I'm like, shut up. I want a farm. We don't have a farm. And it's not like I'm playing like walking down the street sim. This is cool. Come on. And then when Animal Crossing came out, I remember because I had that familiarity of like, oh, so games like this exist where I can just be a part of a town and have friends and there's no crazy thing that happens. And so I remember seeing the ads for it and asking my parents for it for like Christmas or something. And that just totally was even more because it was like, wow, I have all these friends and I have like my whole life here and nobody is mean to me and everybody, well, actually they were mean to me, but it was different. It was funny, I guess, kind of, except for when back in the old Animal Crossing was like the Wild West because they would just up and leave. Sometimes you thought you knew somebody and then they just go. There was no stopping them. But either way, it still made me feel like I had this life that I knew how to live and I was good at living it. And I was like this valued member of society and I was contributing things. And it was everything at the time to me to give me a sense of self and a sense of accomplishment and something that I could go to every day that I wouldn't be told I was sucking at, you know?
So consensual bullying aside from Animal Crossing early village life, it sounds that was there any real life applications from the games that you played to real life where, you know, it seems that real life, at least for me, there's these rules that everyone seems to understand just automatically and that we have to decipher it ourselves. But it sounds to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, that video games were kind of like here's how to human outside.
Yeah, a little bit for sure. Like with talking to villagers and stuff like that. And it was kind of a place where I could experiment a little bit with like who I was and who my friends were and who I gravitated towards and who I didn't like. And like, you know, my first boyfriend was Tad the frog, that kind of thing. And I was like, I like him, you know. So it was just kind of like a little place I could practice being human in a part of a society with other little animals, you know.
It's hilarious that you talk about how animals were kind of that social interaction in place of, you know, human and authority figures, because Pokemon and Neopets were like that for me when I was a kid. And this whole notion that
big time. Oh
my gosh, like this whole notion that it was your responsibility to take care of these creatures, and as a result they start sharing with you. It was a give and take sort of mechanism that also allowed for me to focus. How does being dyslexic affect gaming for you? Is that a big contributing factor to which games you play?
Yeah. I don't like puzzle games or anything like that. I really don't like when you brought up Neopets, I was remembering kind of in my younger days when I was playing it, because I've been on there forever. And they used to have these big plots, and a lot of it was like these riddles and puzzles and stuff. And I'd be like, I can't do that, but okay, have fun. And I would just do kind of the other stuff because I'm just really not good at reading comprehension, honestly. And I think even to this day, you know, sometimes I don't know. I don't know if it's a running joke or if it annoys people on my channel or what, but I'll be like, I don't know what to do, even though they just told me because I just straight up didn't read. I just didn't read that. I don't have time to read it. Like I just don't. And like when I do read dialogue out loud, especially if I'm doing like an editing like video not live or whatever, it's so funny how many takes it takes to like get me to get through a sentence where I don't mess something up. But you know, just being able to read it in my head and take my time with it and stuff, like when I'm playing by myself and like when I was a kid playing by myself was helpful. And it probably helped me a lot with like being more comfortable reading in my head and stuff like that. And I did really like reading as a kid, but it's just like, gosh, reading out loud in class, like, it was the worst. And yeah, it's just, I think, you know, it helped in some ways to kind of expose me to like things where I had to read faster and stuff like that or follow along. But at the same time, if it had any kind of like riddle or puzzle or something that required reading or numbers or anything like that, I was like, no, thank you.
I've heard it from the very basic levels of researching. So, friends, I'm not an expert on this, I'm not a doctor, but I have been reading up on how people specifically with ADHD or with learning disabilities have found solace in games specifically because it removes that expectation for perfection, that it allows for you, as you said, to take your time to really understand and hone those, you know, reading comprehension and vocal comprehension skills for putting, you know, your brain to your mouth to reality. And it amazes me how video games have left such a positive impact. I mean, I learned HTML from not only MySpace, but from Neopets, you know, for coding.
Neopets, me too. Yeah.
So
it's so funny because I was coding in Neopets before MySpace, and then all my friends were like, how do you know how to do this? And I was like, I just do. I don't know, because I didn't want to tell them I was playing Neopets. They're like, oh, help me with my MySpace. I'm like, okay.
Well, joke's on them because the Neopets for McDonald's were top tier, just saying, like super popular.
They really were.
And I have been really appreciating how, you know, the things that made you quirky or weird when you were a kid is now becoming mainstream. Like Neopets is making a comeback. Pokemon is more popular than ever. I mean, any Pokemon game, there's somebody that's going to love it. And I think what's really cool about your content, Amanda, is you have applied a lot of the things that you think about outside of gaming into gaming itself. So let's talk about your original 2020 Animal Crossing New Horizons Island, Molokai. Why did you start to formulate the Amanda files revolving Molokai?
It's just like that was how I played the game, and I just initially was like thought it was kind of funny when I don't know, I was stir crazy, I guess, and I was like, oh, look at like me and my villagers, I'm like we're fighting, or like this is my bestie right here, like this is like the island you know, playboy or whatever. And like I was just kind of thought it was silly and like would just occasionally upload a little TikTok about it. And I'm like, is no one else playing it this way? How are you guys playing it? Wait, what? Like, I don't know. I just couldn't help but like humanize all of them and see like just, I don't know. And I do that with a lot of things where I'm just like, this isn't fun enough for me. I need to make it like worse. I need to make it more like dramatic, I guess. I need to mess it up a little. And so, yeah, that's just, I guess, always been my play style. Like even when I play any game, like thinking back to it, playing just like the first few like Pokemon games, even I'd be playing it and there's like no big, you know, plot or like dynamics with the characters other than just thanks for helping me, bye. But I would be like, well, this one's my boyfriend, and then like this is my friend, and like I would have like this running story in my head about my role in this game that I was playing, even though that wasn't happening. And I still to this day do that a lot, even if I'm not doing it in my channel. I just need to, I don't know, just always need to have like a little story running through my head about everything. So yeah, that's how it initially started. And I just never wanted to like restart Molokai or anything because I just like form unhealthy attachments to things, I guess. I don't know. So I'm like, no, I can't let it go ever. And it's just been just spiraling out of control from there. But the things that happen on it are just in the moment, and I just, the way that I interpret them in that moment, I just like take it and run with it. Like, I think the whole thing with Sherb, which, to be fair, I mean, those lazy villagers say weird things. They really do.
I can't look at Sherb the same because of you. It is delightfully all of your fault. Like, he's such a baby. I'm like, he's not, though. I know what he does. He digs bodies for fun.
Right, exactly. No, it's just like, and that was just a one-time thing, being like, he's being weird. And then it just spiraled into like, he's a serial killer now. It's like, so it's just little things like that where I'm like, that's the situation. Yeah.
I love the fact that I now have Zucker on one of my islands. And I was thinking back when you had Zucker and how he was like this godlike being that has left the island to let you live your life. And so what I find really incredible is, you know, I think back in the 80s and 90s, especially in education institutions where there was conformity, that what was considered, and I'm not considering it a weakness, but what was considered a hardship for teachers to teach you, you've turned this into like an amazing creative outlet that people look forward to seeing week by week. Like, you've created these characters. You created a wedding for 2 Animal Crossing characters that was celebrated for months. And
I'll do it again.
Is it Ken
and Goose?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, at some point soon. I know. Yeah, they're just they've been so great. I think the universe is on my side with some of this stuff too, because like sometimes I'll make up a weird little thing and then it'll just play out.
Yeah, like, that's amazing.
Yeah, it was amazing. So, but thank you. That was so sweet of you to say all that, because it means a lot to me to have, like, I don't know, sometimes, like, you know, being a YouTuber for a lot of people, and I'm sure you can relate, is just kind of trying to be yourself in a way that is marketable, I guess, or that people might like. At least for me, like, I can't do a persona or anything. That's a part of like my neurodivergence, I guess, where I just have a hard time doing anything other than like what I do normally or who I am. And so it's just kind of, I don't know, it's validating that, like, when you do that and people are like, hey, I like this is funny, or like, I relate to what you said, or you know, that kind of stuff is just like, wait, what? Really? You like it? You like me? That's crazy, because I have had so many people that have made me feel like I should never tell anybody about this. Like, there's just like things, like even just playing video games, a lot of the time I would have friends growing up that I couldn't tell about that kind of stuff. Like, I could never talk to them about, I don't know, I could just, looking back even in middle school, like I can't even imagine talking to my friends about Animal Crossing the way that we talk about it now, as like, and I'm like 30, and I have other friends that are like, that I talk about Animal Crossing with. But then even as a kid, you know, I'm like, oh God, please don't find out I play Pokemon and Neopets and stuff. Cause they just, I don't know. It was just always, I guess it was kids. I don't know. Cause it was popular, but then the people I guess I hung out with were weird. They would have been like, oh, what? That's weird. And I'm like, okay, sorry.
Well, also
I'll
the patriarchy, right?
Because never tell anybody. I know.
Yeah, I know. Biologically female people were not marketed towards for gaming. And even with Harvest Moon, I don't think that, I think the original Harvest Moon, you only played a boy, right?
A boy.
Yeah. So it's like,
a straight boy.
Yep. Oh, that's, I mean, for somebody that is a rainbow and a half, like, that's totally fine. But also it is
right,
very...
same. I know, I'm bi, so I was like, okay.
Yeah, like,
I like
no.
this is
no.
great. Oh no, I have to marry a girl. Oh no.
Awful.
And if my parents walk in, I could just tell them, like, I had no choice. I literally have no choice. Yeah, that's my wife, but I'm a guy, so it's heterosexual. Aren't you happy for me? Not that they care, they don't care, but still, it's just like, it's funny that you bring that up, because that was like one of the first times I can ever remember being like, okay, cool, I can do this. Like, wow, I can marry a girl.
I know. Yeah. And now it's so fascinating what becomes mainstream now, like the celebration or the acknowledgement, at least, of neurodivergence and disabilities, you know, celebrating whatever part of the rainbow, celebrating BIPOC customizations in games, which I think is now officially the standard. But I have also noticed in moving away from, Animal Crossing for a minute, which also has great customizations and they them pronouns for the most part, that you have been kind of moving away from Molokai specifically and a little bit of Animal Crossing as your main focus on the Amanda files. So what led to that shift?
I think I just want to avoid burnout for myself with that stuff, because I really do love playing Animal Crossing, but I notice it sneaking up on me where I'm like, oh, I don't want to do this, and and I never want it to really get to that point where I'm just like totally being fake about it and being like, here we go, Animal Crossing. And so I think it's important for all of us to do things, whether it's like starting the new island. I have Mothman where I can just do something new with that, or playing new games. That's always just it reinvigorates, whether they do good or not, like it reinvigorates so much of my creative spirit. Because sometimes I feel like I've already done so much with the Animal Crossing thing, and I'm like, how can I keep this fresh and funky, And I love just exploring new ways that I can react to things and create a little story. I recently did this dating sim, this voltage dating sim from 20 years ago, not 20 years ago, but 10 years ago, probably. Wow, I'm old. Yeah, probably 10 or 13 years ago or something. I don't know. Because now I'm thinking 2013, 14, 15, maybe. I don't know. I don't know how time. I can't do math, as you can see.
It's okay.
But it was from a while ago, and it was a mobile game, and I just
remembered
it randomly, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna play it. It kind of invigorated this new style of doing things and storytelling, because I was filling in a lot of the blanks, and I was like, here's my outfit that I'm wearing for this scene, or I'm rewriting this scene. This is what I actually said, because I don't like the way that my character reacted in the scene. I was thinking oh, this is going to get no views, but I had so much fun doing it. And it actually did do really well, and a lot of people really liked it. And it just meant so much to me to have something that I really put my heart into kind of do that, because I know a lot of the time when we try to step out of that bubble, sometimes it can be disappointing, because it's just the algorithm, audience that we might have of just subscribers in general they just have us for one thing. And so it's really nice to be able to experiment and try new things. And I have so many things that I would love to try. It's just a matter of feeling stable enough to make that risky sidestep and just try to see how people react to this or that. And so I feel like I'm doing it very slowly and very cautiously, because I would love to do video essays or deep dives on things. And I feel like through my Neopets stuff, I'm starting to kind of slowly tiptoe into that, where it's not this total tone shift and it's about a game or it's about this or that, but it's not a let's play. So it's hard. It's hard when you have so many things you want to do, but then you have to remember that you have this audience that's there for a certain reason maybe, and you have to hope that they trust you or that they give you a chance with new things, while also worrying about the algorithm being well, we're not going to push that out because we just don't like it, or I don't know what they do, but it's hard. It's really hard, but it's it needs to be a slow process, but yeah, it's definitely something that I'm interested in doing, because I love Animal Crossing. I still have so much more to do and so many stories to tell there, but at the same time, there's just so much more I want to explore and do with this whole platform that I'm just so lucky to somehow have.
Your video essay, speaking of, I think one of my most favorite videos that you've ever done was talking about the anaconda that you found, and what an incredible journey that led from you just shooting your shot and perhaps getting to even have that experience to getting a tattoo of the anaconda. And it truly is an incredible form of storytelling, because I think consistently, as you've said, you've had this voice of complete, genuine and loving compassion with not only your fellow people, but with animals, and how games kind of play a part in that. And that was something that I loved about your Neopets video, because it's the same thing. You were telling the story about how Neopets impacted your life and helping people understand the new Neopets. Amanda, I truly feel that your niche, sorry, I'm gushing about you, but it's your niche is something that I really hope that people feel inspired to share, because your stories are so incredible. And they are unique and also so relatable. And I really hope that you don't feel beholden or enslaved by the algorithm, which leads me to a question, a follow-up is how do you protect your mental health from the algorithm? Because it sounds that hyperfixation is something that you have to be very mindful of, and obsessive thinking is also a common thing for you. How do you manage that?
First of all, thank you so much. You have no idea how much I needed to hear all of that. Truly, I've just been like in that sense that I just kind of explained of like, where do I go next? And are people going to give me a chance? And so just thank you. Truly, I needed to hear that. And that is a great question, especially because, yeah, I am so prone to really reading into things and worrying about things and taking things very personally, when there's always this voice that we all have, like in the back of our mind, saying like, it's not because they don't like you. It's not because you suck at this. It's literally it's just not that. But it's hard to not internalize that and be like, I suck at this. Everybody hates me. And so I've had to really work hard to like get into the habit of not looking at that stuff very much. And so I really don't like, I used to be like so obsessed with looking like, oh, what is it out of 10? Or like, how many views is it getting at this point? And like, what does it look like? What do my analytics look like? And stopping doing that as much, or if at all, has really, really helped a lot. Because yeah, I used to get so bent out of shape if something wasn't performing a certain way. And now I'm just like, you know what? I have to just trust that, even if your channel dips a little bit, it might come back up. It just takes one video to really, get more people looking, or to get back in the algorithm's favor. So just keep making videos and keep doing what you do, because then, you get nice comments from people and they mean a lot. And you're like, okay, so the people who are seeing this are liking it. So it's certainly not that it sucks, because, it's not like people are like, this sucks. Not that that would matter anyway, because it's a YouTube comment, but still, it's just like the nice comments that you get make a world of difference, and they keep you going. And so, yeah, I've had to just stop looking at that stuff, because it just freaks me out and makes me overthink and makes me think like, what am I doing wrong? What do I need to do? And I think the best thing that you can do, because this is what I've been doing, is just to do what you want to do, make the stuff you want to make, say what you want to say, be yourself, and not focus so much on all the numbers, No,
I get it. It's really easy to start breaking yourself down into literal zeros and one in code, because I know that I have to tell people all the time that I'm in my mid-30s and I still give a crap about random people on the internet having a positive opinion of me. And it's so addicting, especially coming from a situation growing up where I was not the most popular kid. I was quite weird, and I didn't really find my voice or find my people until college. And I think that's a really common reality for people of any flavor of neurodivergence, or being queer, or just being different. And that is another sort of what is that? Not an under flavor, an undertone. There we go. I know words. You have this undertone of whatever that you're talking about in almost any video. You talk about your experiences with growing up in poverty, growing up with various animals, the impacts of what it meant to be a wildlife conservationist, being vegan, being a parent, being a scene kid, being into My Chemical Romance. And I know that you talk about being an oversharer, but it's very clear how important it is to share those stories. So I'm really curious about why you developed telling specific things, but also establishing boundaries of what you wouldn't talk about.
It took a lot of of me sharing certain things with friends or people, and then being like, that felt weird to share. I think I didn't mean to share that, or like, I think I shouldn't have shared that, because like, and I got to a point where in my like early 20s, I wouldn't talk about anything. I was like a dude. Like, I was just like, I'm fine. Everything's fine. I'm fine. I'm totally fine. Like, it took my husband forever to really like, get to a point where we could talk about that kind of stuff. And I was always like, I made it such a huge thing. I was like, I have something horrible to tell you. And he's like, what? Are you okay? And I'm like, I have dyslexia, like just stuff like that. Or like, this is a story from my childhood, or like just stuff like I have social anxiety, I have ADHD. He's like, it's fine. It's okay. Like, okay, are you okay? You know, just stuff like that. So I got kind of from one end to the other, and eventually I think with like my close friends, I got to a point where, okay, you know, talk to them about stuff as it comes up. And I'm big on like, you know, when somebody's talking to me, I'm like, oh, I can relate to that. Here's a story that I went through, whether that's a good or bad thing, I don't know. But I'm just all about like, oh, I have to show this person that I relate to them. Cause that's what I like when people do with me. Like if I'm telling them something, and they're like, oh yeah, I went through that too. I'm like, oh really? Wow, cool. And that just means a lot to me. But I think with like making videos and stuff, I never quite realized how, I don't know how it would be to talk to people that you know as a collective, like love you and care about you and relate and get you and know who you are and trust you. And they like just knowing that that's who's listening, but they're not like staring at you and you don't have to worry about like making eye contact with them or if, I don't know, just like the weird little things that you worry about when people are in person, like all that stuff just goes out the window, and it makes it so much easier to talk about stuff that might be hard, because I know that the people that are receiving it or listening to it, like that they care about me, but also that they relate, and that in some cases it's helpful to them too. Like that's amazing, knowing that I really don't know what I'm talking about. I'm certainly not a professional, and I'm definitely not trying to say like, oh, I help them in the place of a therapist, because of course I don't. But just knowing like through people's comments that like, oh wow, I didn't realize that this was this, and this made me feel so validated, or like, wow, this made me think a little bit more about stuff that I felt really bad about, because I realize now that that was just this or that. And so, you know, it's just been so helpful. And it's been like, because even with therapists, like I've had a few therapists, and I just remember like lying to them or not telling them everything because I don't want them to judge me. And it's like, Amanda, that's their job. You don't think that they've heard worse stuff than the little like things that you're like, I can't let them know about that because they're going to judge me, or like, I don't want their pity, or like, just stuff like that, where you feel these weird like hesitations, I guess, to get into things when you're in person with someone. But at the same time, you know, I think that there's always like, based on my own experiences of like hearing people's stories or talking to people and knowing the points where like it gets to be too much, where like it hurt, like it triggers you if you have those certain things that you really just don't want to think about in that level of depth. I think that I just go on what I know I can handle and what I know is really poignant and meaningful, without skimming by it and just being like, yeah, I have this, whatever, like, let's move on. Let's keep it 100% positive.
Yeah.
I try to just make sure that I'm kind of towing that line of being open and really sharing the like depths of it in a way that doesn't touch on like the really triggering or like really sad stuff. So yeah, it's just, it's an interesting dynamic to have a place where you can talk without judgment. And you're kind of just talking to your walls, but you know who's going to receive it, and you know who you're talking to. And that's why I mean, there's been so many instances where I've been like talking about something and I start like, you know, getting emotional and crying, because it's not just me talking to my walls. It's like, I know who I'm talking to, and I know that they're listening, and that they love me, and that I love them in a probably parasocial way, but you know,
parasocially platonic.
It just means a lot. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it just means a lot when you know, they're commenting and they're telling you these like these things that, you know, like that indicate that they listened and that it meant something to them, and that's that's been really helpful.
I think what I've also come to realize about being honest, but also establishing those boundaries and talking about you as a real person, is that I think viewers and other content creators start recognizing that toxic positivity is called toxic positivity for a reason. And we can't simply just remove our souls from the content we make. And it's so important to really recognize accepting the things that are hard and accepting the things that we can't control. And healing and being angry means that our viewers, younger, older, whatever journey that they're on, can also go through that as well. Because when people are starting to talk about, you know, ADHD, and they like, I'm getting so much on my Twitter feed, despite it being a dumpster fire right now, but like, I'm like, people are
For real.
talking about all of these things about what it means to be ADHD. And I'm like, really? That's a thing? Like, because I went through that and I'm going through that postpartum
Hmm.
too. And I was like, does this mean I
Oh,
need to
yeah.
consider going and getting formally diagnosed, which is something that I never thought that playing Animal Crossing or gaming would do, is the encouragement of going and seeking treatment, which I think is something that
Hmm.
we didn't see from we did see from the pandemic, is the encouragement of self-care and the encouragement of telling
Right.
people I'm not okay, but I'm going to
Hmm.
focus on something that makes me feel better. And I think that's something
Hmm.
that you really just embody in your entire being. With that in mind, what do you think is not often talked about with regards to neurodivergence in content creation and in gaming that you think should be?
I mean, one thing that I'm never sure exactly how much to talk about this, or if it's like, I feel bad talking about how hard it is, like
Mm-hmm.
how truly, truly, truly hard this job is, because at the end of the day, like there's really not, I'm someone who's had like my dream job before, and I can still say that like I am so immensely, like the only word I can think of is blessed that I can do this, especially now as a mom. Like I can stay
Mm-hmm.
home with Jade, which is really what I want. Just because
Mm-hmm.
I love to, I don't want to miss any moment.
Yeah.
And I know that a lot of people just don't have the option. It's not that like if you don't want to do that, that you would rather pursue your career. It's not like
Mm-hmm.
you're missing stuff, because at the end of the day,
Yeah.
you're their parent and
Mm-hmm.
you get the most of them. But still, it's just something that I wanted, and I would have been. I'm like, I have like separation anxiety or whatever. I don't know. So
Mm-hmm.
I knew that I wanted that, but I knew that there was no way I could ever really make that work.
Mm-hmm.
And just getting to be able to do that and getting to be able to kind of make my own schedule so I can put her first and my family and do all these things that I want to do. That's so amazing. It's amazing. And
Mm-hmm.
it's amazing that I not only have that, but I can do it in this like creative outlet, because I love being creative and I love being able to tell stories and make videos, and this is
Mm-hmm.
my job. Like how lucky am I? Like how lucky are any of us who do this? It's so wonderful. And it's video games. Like I'm playing video games, so
Mm-hmm.
I really can't complain. But at the same time, like just having to the way that the work is very toilsome, like having to sit at your
Mm-hmm.
computer and do the editing, and the way that I have to make everything so difficult for myself, because just the way that I am, I guess, and not to be like I'm different, I'm quirky, like I don't know
Mm-hmm.
if anybody else does this, but I just have to, I can't right now see myself ever hiring an editor just because I
Mm-hmm.
want to do it. I just want to do it, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And I just love to, like, as I'm editing, a part of my process is like little jokes pop into my head that I edit in. And that's just a
Mm-hmm.
part of my creative process that I have to have.
Mm-hmm.
And, and stuff like that. But at the same time, it's just so hard for like my ADHD to just sit there for hours and hours and hours and just edit and edit and edit. So I have to like break it up into like 2 hour blocks and then go do something else. And
Mm-hmm.
now even being a parent, it's hard because as you know, we just don't get like
That
any
free
time
time.
for ourselves, just to be alone and just to be
Mm-hmm.
unbothered. And so when I do get to that point, because, I'm so lucky to have my husband he works like all day, and then he takes Jade at night once we're all settled in. Like we have kind of like a few hours as a family where
Mm-hmm.
like, and he's like the cook of the relationship too. So he'll make dinner, and like
Mm-hmm.
we might, we eat dinner together. We just hang out and talk and stuff. We might go on a walk, and then I'll go up to my office and he'll have Jade for the rest of the night and put her
Mm-hmm.
down and stuff. And I'm so lucky in that regard. But the first thing I want to do when I get in here is like take an hour to just like play Neopets or just play a
Mm-hmm.
game without filming it, or be on my
Mm-hmm.
phone or talk to, my friends on Discord and stuff like that. And then I end up feeling kind of guilty because I'm like, I need to be working right now. Like why am I doing this? Why am I doing
Mm-hmm.
this so much more than I used to?
Yeah.
And then I realized like, oh, it's because I have a kid now, so I can't ever do this. And so it's like
Mm-hmm.
I'm just like yearning for it. And so it's been hard having to kind of forgive myself for those moments where I'm like, oh, I've been on Neopets for 2 hours and I'm supposed to be working. Uh-oh. And just realize like you need that too. That's a part of taking care of yourself. You can't just like, watch Jade all day long and then
Mm-hmm.
go right into work mode and not get any time to be alone. Because being alone is something that I've always really valued.
Yeah.
And I've just always been someone who's able to not only like be okay being alone, but actually I really benefit from having some time just alone. And so I didn't realize how much I cling to that. And it's been hard to kind of find a work balance of like, okay, you have to give yourself some time for yourself, and also you have to work. And then there's weird parallels of like, you know, sometimes I just want to play these games alone and I don't want to stream everything, and I don't want to like, you know, I'm like, oh, I can't play that because I have to wait to make a video about it. And that can be kind of like, oh man, but that's so like, whatever. It's fun to like film your reaction and stuff to that. So I think just knowing that, like, I know it's like a lot of me just needing some time to like balance that, but it's also just impossible to sit here and just do something for the same thing for hours and hours without having to break it up, and that's where like I get really bad about procrastinating, or like my ADHD makes me have all these like huge plans in my head where I'm like, I'm going to do this and that and this and that. And then I just don't do it.
Yep.
I'm like, oh, I have this video and this video. And there's been videos that I've filmed and I have, but I just haven't had a chance to edit them. And
does that drive you bananas to have like a backlog of things that you need to edit, and then you feel like you can't do any other video because you'll have a bigger backlog? Because that's what I'm going through right now, and it's awful.
Usually.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I always thought like, oh, it'd be so nice to have so many videos already filmed. No,
nope.
Don't do that.
No. And I do find a lot of solace in you being like, it's very clear that, you know, there is nothing but love and appreciation for your current position. You clearly love your daughter. You clearly love your husband. You clearly love your life. But that does not take away the fact that having a child is a huge time and emotional sink. There is a lot of, I think, especially for birth parents specifically, the impacts of really having to rewrite your entire identity and scheduling around a person that you brought into this world. And, you know, my husband's like, you need to give yourself some like love and credit. You are the sole caretaker of your child during the day. You do not have time, and it's okay that the house is not clean, and it's okay that you didn't get content done. I'm like, yes, but I'm also trying to establish an identity that's outside my child. And that is something that I don't think we talk about, especially with neurodivergent people, where we hyperfixate on things so easily and we sacrifice ourselves so easily for what's in front of us.
Big time. Yeah, that's such a good point.
I know that you've already talked about how parenting has had an impact on content creation and, you know, just how willingly you share your life. But I wanted to hear whether or not you've noticed, and if you're comfortable, if you've noticed a change in how your brain perceives information after childbirth.
Yeah, definitely. I think that it's been, I guess, you know, in ways, obviously it's so hard. It's like, oh my God, just everything changes. And it's been a lot of just relearning everything, because I'm already really not great with scheduling or with structure or with like routines. So just so bad about it. And that has been a huge challenge of like realizing that even though I don't know what it is either, because I always feel better when I'm scheduled and structured and on a routine, but I just have an aversion to it for whatever reason. My brain is just so chaotic naturally. And so having to not have really a choice but to start adhering to a schedule and having to do things in a certain order all the time and all that stuff, it's kind of forced me into that habit, which is, you know, good for me probably. And it's certainly good for Jade, but it's also just been really hard to be like, okay, before I do this that I either want to do or that I feel like I have to do this, and this first, and we have to do this and all this. And so that has been a huge challenge just because of the way that my ADHD just wants to kind of live in chaos and just be like, oh, I'll do this now and I'll just put this off for 2 weeks and then freak out about it then. Like, you can't do that. I have to call the doctor and make appointments because I'm the mom. I'm like the parent. I can't even do that for myself.
I know.
It's so hard. Just things like that. And, you know, having to talk to people and having to be, because I just have that like social anxiety thing really really bad. And so I just don't really like talking to people, but having a kid makes it so that other people talk to you in public a lot more, at least for me. Like they're like, oh, cute, blah, blah, blah. How old is she?
Yep.
And so I'm like, and stuff like that. I'm still working on, because she doesn't go to daycare or anything. So I want to always give her opportunities to like meet other kids and stuff like that and hang out. So we go to like some places where like other kids go to play and stuff a couple times a week. And I'm still kind of getting to the point where like right now I'm still at a point where if like another mom comes up to me and starts talking, I just don't know what to say. So I'm just like, look at them. I just don't know. Like they'll just be like, how old? I'll be like, she's this old, and I'll ask them about their kid, but then they'll just stand next to me and I'll kind of be like, JD, make sure to share. Like, and I'll just be like, does she want me to talk to her? Like, what do I say? That's really hard. But I know that it's probably good to, make friends with other parents and stuff. But but at least it's like I will have those situations. I'll be like, I never like, normally I would be like, I'm never going back there again. That's just my brain. Like if I have one awkward thing happen at a grocery store with a cashier that they probably didn't even notice, I'm like, I can't go back there ever again. And so normally I'd be like, I can't go back there, but I have to because Jade wants to go back there. So probably good for me too. Just stuff like that. I know it's only going to get harder as she gets older, and I'm having to talk to like teachers and like other things like, and just stuff like that. But yeah, I think it helps to get me out of those behaviors where I'm always trying to protect myself or always trying to stay in my chaos or in my little like, thing where I don't want to be in public or talk to people. Like it's probably good for you to not have a crippling fear of going to the grocery store. So yeah. And it's just nice to always have somebody there with you too. Because instead of pretending to check your phone, you can be like pretending that you're engaged in a conversation with your 20-month-old. So yeah, that's nice.
Oh my gosh, is Jade 20 months now? She's almost 2.
I know, right?
Oh my gosh. I keep forgetting that Jade's only a couple of months older than my son, and the impacts that I think maybe you could shed some light on this, but it feels that since even as a young child, you had to rise to the occasion to conform and hide to who you are as a person, that from being a parent, it's not about conforming, it's still rising to the occasion. So you have had practice with having to be beyond your comfort zone, which sucks because that's hard.
It is. I know. Yeah, it feels sometimes like that's all it ever is, especially if like, because, we're still living in a world where that's not going to cut it. You can't just not be afraid to make doctor's appointments. You got to go to the doctor. You got to go to the dentist, like stuff like that. And like just the other day, like I hadn't gotten my hair cut since before Jade was born. So I was like, I really just need my haircut. I know, but I hate it. I hate the small talk. I hate someone touching my hair. I hate it. I just hate it. And I have it in my brain of like, this is such a bad, scary, big, scary, bad. No, like don't do it ever. Like cannot recommend any less. Don't do it. But then obviously like I feel better when I get my hair cut and I can actually do stuff with my hair. And during it, it's never as bad as I make it into my head to be. Like I had a totally fine time. I have like a new hairdresser. That was also a big scary thing because we moved. So I needed to find someone new. And I was like, I don't want a stranger. And it was fine. It was totally fine. We had a fine conversation. She was lovely, so sweet. I actually enjoyed it. Like it was fine. But the things like that, I'm like, I really don't want to do this, and it just is constantly me being like, well, too bad. You have to. You can't not do it. I'm sorry. And so I know that parenthood is just all of that because it's not you. It's not your own teeth that you're not getting cleaned for 2 years or like your own health problems that you're ignoring. It's your child. And like you can't just be afraid to call the doctor or not want to take them somewhere or do something that they want to do. So that's it's more of like because even when you feel like, oh, I have to do this, eventually you can still put it off and you can still hide away from it until you feel strong enough. And I think that was the case for me with like, every dentist appointment I make, every hair appointment, every time I go out in public in general, I'm like, okay, I guess I feel like I can do this. And so, yeah, when you become a parent, it's very much like you have to just rise right to the occasion, right when your child needs it, because, it's not about you in that situation.
I have noticed that since having Jade, that it sounds like you have been branching out and doing scary things with gaming content, so that there is kind of like a give and take with how your life has really impacted your storytelling and your content creation. And Amanda, truly, I mean, you don't need my validation, but I think that you've been doing an incredible job, not only by Jade and your life and your parenting and your husband, but by the fact that your unabashed honesty and confronting and rising to the occasion allows for people to continue to do that, re-entering into a world post-pandemic. And that's such a necessary thing in social media and YouTube as a platform. And I really hope that I'm just so excited to see where you go. Like, that's so exciting.
You too. Yeah, I totally admire you so much with just everything that you do, all the little, just the way that you organize your platform and make it such a fun place for people to come to, and how they know where you are and what to expect. And you give them so many different outlets of like how to enjoy you, like whether you want to do this stream or this game or this, that, and everything else. And you're the same way. You're just so open and honest about things that matter. And I know that a lot of your conversations have helped me a lot, and I am so excited to see what you do too.
You're so sweet.
Because you are definitely such an inspiration, especially as like a working parent. I'm like, you know what? If Artsy can do it, so can I.
That's how I was thinking about you. It's like, man, if Amanda can do it, like Amanda can be like this badass, I can be a badass. But speaking of pets and animals, you have a rabbit with head tilt, correct?
I do. It's so funny because he's been so good. Like sometimes he'll roll and it'll be really loud. And I remembered earlier, I was like, don't forget to tell Artsy that like if there's this big crash, it's just my rabbit rolling around, but he hasn't done it at all. So, but yeah, I do.
How is he doing?
His name's Root Beer, and he's doing great. He's doing really good. The first few weeks we had him because we recently adopted him, and he was kind of just feeling out his new situation. He was a little disoriented, and I think that sometimes the stress like causes their condition to flare up a little. Yeah, so we helped him through that, and now he's doing great, and he's so much more comfortable. He comes up to us, and he's really sweet. So yeah,
as somebody who has a special needs rabbit, Andra.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, she has the megacolon condition where her colon is enormous.
Oh, that's tough.
Oh,
that's
yeah.
Really
We've
tough.
had to dissect her twice in order to get.
Baby.
Yeah, and her teeth require
constant. So great.
Yeah, she is lovely. But I was remembering watching your previous content about like you got a rabbit. I was like, another bunny parent. Let's go.
Yes, that's so awesome that you're a bunny parent. They are very like unique, special pets that like you don't get it until you have them because they're just
absolutely
they're so full of character, and it's so amazing that you have given your bunny a home because the rabbits, with like the head tilts and with the megacolon and the different things that they deal with, it's very hard to find them homes, especially like just rabbits in general, but like rabbits with special needs like that, it's hard. So you're amazing.
My rabbit was abandoned in a parking lot. And so she was, I know, both of my rabbits were released out into the wild, which is the worst thing you can do.
How?
Don't ever do that. I don't know.
You live with yourself.
I know, right? Seriously. So when we got her, we noticed that her waist was a lot larger. I'm sorry, friends. I know we're not talking about neurodivergence, but we're hyperfixating on rabbits for a minute. But so
exactly.
So it's been a long journey, and my hope was just getting her to like 3 years because the life expectancy for special needs rabbits is really low, and she's 6, so we're doing pretty well.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is so awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. So that's
Yeah.
another thing we have in
Yeah, I
common.
know. I love it.
That's so
Yeah.
funny. And not just rabbits, but disabled
I
rabbits. Like
know.
this.
Yeah. So friends, I know that it's always really hard, and should always consider whether or not your house is suitable for not only an animal but a disabled animal. But they deserve love too, and if you let them into your house and home, they will not only destroy your wallpaper but destroy your heart by how amazing they are. But anyway, so Amanda, I do want to do a huge thank you and a shout out for you being on here, for taking the time. How can we aggressively, like consensually aggressively, like promote you, and where can we find you on the interwebs?
Thank you so much for having me. This was so nice. This is what I needed. I needed some like chat time with you. Just the Amanda files on everything. I'm pretty sure that's I'm on YouTube, X, X, Twitter, until something better comes along, and then Instagram and stuff like that. I don't have a Twitch or anything. I just never, it's too hard to learn multiple things. So,
no, I agree.
So yeah, YouTube is where I'm at for the most part, but I don't think I'm forgetting anything, but yeah.
And I tend to forget, but I have not forgotten, the most important question of Gamers Gab is, who would you like to see on Gamers Gab, and what would the topic be?
I don't know if I would have a topic, but my two of my closest friends in the Animal Crossing creator space are Katie on Calico and Salem from Salem, maybe. I don't even know there's so many things that you could talk to. I mean, Katie has such a cool life. And Salem is just so funny and so interesting, and you could talk to them about anything forever.
So I'll definitely be reaching out to them and seeing what topics that they would like to share. I know that a couple of people have wanted Katie on, and Salem is incredible. So friends, I'll be sure to leave the links of where you can find those two content creators, as well as all of the links where you can support Amanda. Amanda has recently added membership to her YouTube channel, and you can also support her on Patreon. She has a lovely Discord for Patreon people only. Is that correct? Okay. Yeah. So if you want to join Discord and share in curating a really great, self and coming to acceptance, go join and hang out with the Amanda Files. And
thank you so much.
Yeah. And with that, friends, we'll catch you next time. Please be sure to support Amanda again. Goodbye.